Hello everyone, this is Chris, and desert temples are typically one of the greatest places to get a plethora amount of loot inside the game. Not only are the traps fairly easy to overcome inside of here, but the chests being right next to each other makes for some of the easiest accessible loot inside the game. And within just a couple thousand blocks of today's seed, I found so many different types of desert temples around the place. I believe when I flew around I found about 14, but it's almost certain that I missed quite a few inside this one seed. And I'll be showing you where you can find a few of these desert temples. But yeah, the spawn right here, right next to a little desert, right next to a mega ocean right here. But that's not really the main point of interest inside this one seed. The main point of interest is desert temples all over this one singular area. And when I say this one singular area, I still mean, again, a couple thousand blocks around spawn, but the fact that there's so many I found when just continuously going on and on in one singular direction and then another singular direction, yeah, kind of says for itself that there's a lot of desert temples on this one seed, as we shall be counting on the top right of the screen. And your second one isn't actually too incredibly far from the first one, right here, right sandwiched right between two separate villages, one being a dead village, unfortunately, but another one being a slightly more alive one right next to the ocean right there. But in fact, I believe the closest one you'll actually find near spawn is actually this one right here, which is actually fairly dug into this one hill right here, so yeah. Fortunately, though, this the top part is actually exposed, which means getting the loot inside of here, or in this case, where the lack of loot hasn't spawned in here. But yeah, getting yourself inside of here, getting the loot, assuming it does spawn, is certainly possible. Not far from that one, we have this desert temple right over here, which in some ways is kind of on a small little island in between these one mega rivers around the place. Heading over here, we have this desert temple, which I think is one of the most raised up desert temples I've seen in quite a long time, thanks to it spawning next to this one hill. And since you're heading over in this direction anyway, you might want to pop over at this one too. Heading back in the direction of spawn, we have this desert temple right here, which might be in contenders for one of the closest ones to spawn. And speaking of things that are close together, we have this desert temple right there, and that desert temple right there. And I'm not sure if I could call this one a desert temple, as it's sort of kind of inside of a swamp here, but you know what, because it does look like a desert temple, we will call it a desert temple. And then we have this one over here, which again is kind of submerged inside of a hill and kind of exposed on one side, which kind of makes it a little bit taller than usual. And I guess since we're in the area, we might as well talk about this thing right here, a rune portal which just barely happens to spawn right above the surface of the sand right here. So in case the plethora of desert temples wasn't enough, then you also get this rune portal you can excavate out here. And speaking of rune portals, if you head over to these corners right here, you get yourself this rune portal right here, but you might notice there's something missing in a certain spot. Yeah, there is no rune portal. There's just the netherrack, the stone bricks, and the chest, which is kind of weird, kind of strange. You never really see anything like this, but I guess this seed certainly has a one in a million chance or something like that. Anyways, back to the desert temples, and I will be a little bit quicker because there is still a lot more to find, such as this one right here, which actually I think is the tallest one we found so far. We have this one on the edge of a river here. We have this one right here, this one over here, with an outpost by this one. There's this one over here, which is by a jungle, with some extraordinary terrain right here, not just in the jungle right here with this mega mountain, but also with this one, I believe it's still called a shattered savanna or a wind spread savanna right here, with kind of some of the water features we were expecting with like old shattered savannas. Yeah, something like this. I absolutely love it. Almost as much as I love this desert temple, which is literally just inside the ocean. Like, I don't get this one desert temple, but yeah, if you want like some different challenge, I guess, and it's totally here. Heading back inwards, we have this one right here. There's this one right here. We have another one right here that's right next to a village. And this village in question has two blacksmiths, like, literally right next to each other, which is pretty cool. Which adds on to the vast amount of loot you're gonna get from this one seed. We have another desert temple right here, again, right next to another pillager outpost, and next to Minecraft's greatest structure, the desert well. And honestly, if you continually go out further and further inside this desert, you're gonna find so many more desert temples inside this one seed, but I think that's the main ones I'll show for right now. But as of right now, I have literally no idea how many I showed off, but you can see it on screen there. So for the most part, you're pretty much set for loot inside this one seed, but what about other things on this one world? Well, heading back around spawn, you might have noticed that we spawned next to a coral reef, but for some reason, the coral doesn't happen to spawn in this particular area right here, which does happen to have lots and lots of sea pickles, which should indicate a coral reef, but yeah, there's just no coral to be seen apart from the very outskirts of this one biome. Which honestly, I'm not sure if this is a bug or an intended feature, but I kind of love it. I kind of love just seeing just the sort of dots of light here and there around the place. And like I've mentioned in previous seed showcases, certain biomes have gotten a major upgrade in scale, much like the coral reef. Yeah, we've gone at least a couple thousand blocks from spawn now, and we are still getting more and more coral reef, as well as more desert temples over here, apparently. Okay, this is kind of ridiculous, and I'm kind of curious to see actually how far this one coral reef actually goes. And the answer is literally as far as it could go until it actually reaches mainland. Like I said, biomes are much bigger as of 1.18, but something that stayed the same even as of 1.18 is actually the Stronghold, and heading over to this one village, you actually find the Stronghold beneath, and thankfully the Stronghold is one of the structures that actually has been moved a lot deeper, which means you don't actually have to dig too incredibly far to get yourself down into here. But generally speaking, if you're looking for a seed with a lot of fairly easy accessible loot, then this seed absolutely has you covered. But yeah, for now, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all later.